I will not mess with any of your stuff. I'm just gonna hold it here.
Don't worry about it.
We're good, we're good.
I don't, I'm not gonna tell her to move folders, you know. They're okay. I think they'll okay.
People, we're gonna start. We're down to the last one. Happy Saturday, everybody. We got a few more folks out in the lobby, but we will start in just a moment here. Fellow League members, community friends, guests, thank you so much for joining this morning on a hopefully very nice Saturday. The League of Women Voters is a grassroots nonprofit organization grounded in our nonpartisan policy. LWV neither supports nor opposes any candidate or political party at any level in the government. Our mission is to defend democracy and empower voters, and our programs and events actively try to include all party affiliations and differing points of view. Although the League is nonpartisan, we are political. Our local league has been actively involved in public policy at federal, state, and local levels for 74 years, as reflected by our position statements. Now, before we begin today's program, I have some opportunities to share with you. Our monthly Saturday programs will go on vacation during July and August, but honestly, the league events and actions actually increase, especially this year during an election year. So the details of all of this are included on the lwvjoco.org website. And you can email us if you can't find what you're looking for, but here is a taste of what we have going on and where we could use you. Voter Information has several upcoming events, including one just a week from today. The Juneteenth parade is Saturday, June 13th in Overland Park, and we'd love to have more volunteers come and talk with celebration goers and walk the 1.2-mile parade route. On June 16th, 20th, and 22nd, we have postcard parties with 3,000 postcards, yes, 3,000 to complete. Help us encourage eligible voters to vote by filling out some postcards, bring a friend. And on July 16th, we have a candidate meet and greet for local and state offices, and I can say with certainty that those are a fantastic opportunity. If you haven't done them, if you haven't been to them, please come. Voter Information also has some primary election, judicial amendment flyers, and yard signs available out in the lobby. Hopefully you had a chance to look at those. If not, stop on your way out. Our membership teams next New member league orientation is on Sunday, June 14th, from 1:30 until 2:30 in the Central Resource Library. Also, watch the upcoming voter for house parties to educate our friends and neighbors about voting basics and the primary and general elections. The first party will be held in the backyard, called Beer and Ballots. The activism team has 2 sidewalk intersection protests scheduled per month through August. The league emails protest locations and times, and the activism team provides signs you provide yourself. The next protest is scheduled for Tuesday, June 9th, from 11:30 to 1 p.m. on the corner of 119th and Metcalf. And whether you stand, march, or bring a chair, there is no better feeling than knowing that you are sharing the league's vision of empowering voters and defending democracy. You can contact Ruth Kane or Patty Dykeman with any questions. Our Observer Corps are league members who agree to regularly attend or watch online the proceedings of an elected or appointed public body. And then they make a short report for the newsletter. And it also is on our website if you want to get a quick snippet of what is going on in local government. Our observers' purpose is, one, to make it very clear to elected officials that the league cares about our democratic process and is watching. And 2, to be aware of discussions and actions that affect the issues that we care about. All that's required is the desire to become informed and involved, the ability to regularly attend meetings, even if they're just online and you're watching along, and the ability to write. Here's where that team needs you most. County boards have observer openings for the Johnson County Commission, Johnson County Parks and Recreation, and Johnson County Community College Board of Trustees. Olathe School Board needs an observer, and all city councils in Johnson and Wyandotte counties except for Overland Park and Prairie Village are open and need an observer. And since you're here today, you know and likely appreciate our hospitality team. They have 3 retirements this month from their leadership, and they are seeking 3 new volunteers to help with the only 9 monthly Saturdays meetings each year, like today's. Whether you are a longtime member or are new to the league, this is a great opportunity to provide something wonderful and yummy for our members and to get a chance to meet and talk with people. And you are not obligated to bring only your own goodies. Others will assist with that. You can email hospitality@lwvjoco.org to express interest or to ask questions. And from voter registration. First off, cheers to the amazing voter registration volunteers who have conducted 18 events in March, April, and May. Summer initiatives include independent senior living communities, campus orientation days, and various civic events. On the league website, you can click Get Involved. You can see all the different opportunities. There are a lot of voter registration opportunities upcoming. And to join that team, you can contact voter registration at lwvjoco.org. All are invited to learn about the events of the leaders that drove the 1912 Voting Rights Amendment in our state. This History Happy Hour is presented by Sarah Bell, director of the Kansas Museum of History, on June 11th at 6:30 p.m. at Lenexa City Hall. You can see the voter for details on that. And finally, please, 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 tell your friends, your family, your neighbors, your colleagues that July 14th is the last day to register to vote or update your information for the August 4th Kansas primary election. Early in-person voting for the primary starts on Saturday, July 18th. Party affiliation changes are not allowed from June 1st through September 1st, but unaffiliated voters can affiliate with a party at any time. You can visit your election office website or ksvotes.org to update your information or request a mail-in ballot, which will start going out on July 15th. Very important this year, if you vote by mail or know anyone who votes by mail. This is an issue that is important to all of us. Complete and return your ballot early. All mail-in ballots must be received at the election office on or before Election Day. County election office websites show the early voting locations, the hours of operation, and they list all of the mail-in ballot drop boxes. So important to our democracy. Make sure that your vote is in on time. Finally, to what you have been waiting for, the program. Today's program is Rules for Reestablishing Suffrage. It addresses a sometimes overlooked voter rights issue and impacts our communities, our elected officials, campaigns, voter advocates like us, and may directly impact people that you know. If you have questions during the program, jot them down. We are going to do a nonpartisan live Q&A later in the program, and we will have audience participation. And I am honored to introduce Kansas attorney and current LWV of Johnson County President, Aline Van Beber. Aline grew up on a family farm in southeast Kansas, one which she and her siblings still operate today. She was obsessed with music and theater but wanted a career in law. She soon learned and believed that she could be Miss Kitty or Della Street, but a girl could not be Matt Dillon or Perry Mason. So for 15 years, after earning a degree in speech and drama, she worked as a teacher in journalism and in public relations. Finally, she went to law school, graduating from KU, and immediately went to work for the U.S. Department of Justice. Aline spent 18 years there, first as an assistant U.S. attorney in the District of Kansas, and then as deputy U.S. attorney in the Western District of Missouri. Aline retired early, but failed at retirement and went into private practice, which she still practices today. Aline has always been heavily involved in community service and has been a member of and held office in several local nonprofit educational efforts, including the League of Women Voters. The floor is yours, Aline.
Okay, I gotta get on my little ladder here. You probably learned in high school the presentation should have 3 parts. First, you tell them what you're gonna say. Second, you say it. And third, you recap what you just said. Now that rule makes good sense because in every audience, there are 4 audiences. Group 1 is the perfect group, and it's often the smallest group. They listen, they understand, and they ask you questions when they need to. Group 2 is grateful that you told them ahead of time what you were going to say because they weren't quite sure you were going to get it if they waited till you said it. Group 3 is very carefully listening because they want to be able to tell you exactly what was wrong with every single thing you said. And Group 4 is just there for the recap, since they figure they're going to probably doze off during the main event. So you choose your group. All 4 groups are just fine with me. Now I'll try to hope my voice holds out. I have allergies that make you get hoarse and then not have a voice at all, so I'll do the best I can. Today, I want to talk to you about how states treat felons when it comes to retaining their voting rights, and mostly, where does Kansas fit in this picture? Now, let's get the labels straight first. We need to start with two words. One word is franchise, which means holding a right granted to you by your government or maybe by a company owner. For example, McDonald's might grant you a local franchise to sell its hamburgers, or just maybe you own the Kansas City Chiefs franchise. Our federal Constitution has enfranchised its citizens with suffrage, which simply means to vote. Today, we often see the word disenfranchised, which usually means public media that somebody got deprived of the right to vote, or some group got deprived of the right to vote. They were disenfranchised. In every state, the surest road to getting defranchised is to commit a crime. Now, in some states, that includes a misdemeanor conviction, but in every state, that means being convicted of a felony will cost you your civil rights. Disenfranchisement as a penalty for a crime runs in a straight line from ancient Greece to Rome to medieval Europe to 18th century England, which is where we got the idea. Not only when you're convicted, you might lose your life or your freedom or your property, but you might also lose your civil rights, including the right to vote. In ancient times, that was called a civil death. Our founders left most questions of voter eligibility right up to the states, the state where the potential voter lives. When the Constitution was written, it didn't guarantee the right to vote to anybody. They just gave the states the power to decide for themselves who would have the franchise and under what conditions would they have it. In 18th century America, suffrage was absolutely a direct bonus of economic status. All 13 states eventually enfranchised only free white men, but then only the ones who had enough real estate or enough personal property or could pay a set amount of taxes. Now, the amount of wealth required to get the franchise varied from state to state, but as you can imagine, the poorer states didn't require so much. The rich states required an awful lot for what they called the privilege to vote. Now, some of the states got so bad they decided that it really wasn't very sensible to disenfranchise a white man of higher social status just because he committed a felony. Now, some of the states thought differently about that, thank goodness. As of now, there is no federal law that addresses whether or not a conviction takes away your right to vote or any other civil right, including a federal conviction. If you are convicted of a federal crime, whether you retain your right to vote and under what conditions you retain it depends entirely on the state where you reside. It makes no difference where you were convicted or whether it was a state crime or whether it was a federal crime. And that leaves us with a crazy quilt of voting rights in all the 50 states and the DC and in DC. So, as we consider this topic, I kind of thought you'd be happier if we could play some true and false quizzes, just to see what you find out, or, maybe candy's what you need today. So, my esteemed associate here, Jessica, will be moving around as needed as we engage in these little Falderals. Now, currently, there's 3 different kinds of felony disenfranchisement in the United States, and here they are in order of harshness. The most forgiving are only 3 places. In those places, a criminal conviction has absolutely no effect on your right to vote anytime. First quiz. Name one of the 3. All right, we have what? No, California? No. Yes? Pardon? I still didn't hear. What? Florida? No, oh no. Yes? No? Nope. 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 Bingo. D.C. is it. The other 2 are Vermont and Maine. You see why I said places, not states. It's Vermont and Maine of the states plus the District of Columbia. Now, the second group is 23 states. Those states automatically restore your suffrage the minute you walk out the prison door. Doesn't make any difference whether you're on parole or whether you've got probation or you have other supervised relief. The minute you walk out that door, you've got your civil rights back, at least the right to vote. Now, in most of all the rest of the states, convicted felons automatically regain their civil rights when the entire sentence is finished, and that includes 3 parts. This is true for all states. Part 1 is incarceration, if you got that, parole, if you got that, and probation, or supervised release, or by any other name, whatever you call it. Those are the 3 parts of any criminal sentence. Now, some of the states don't do it automatically. They require you to, after you get out, apply. Or you have to meet some kind of standard, or it might depend upon the severity of the crime. But barring a pardon from the governor, you have to follow the rules of whatever state you live in, never mind where you were convicted. So, second quiz. Which group do you think Kansas is in? Number 1, never mind. Number 2, get out of jail free card. Or number 3, do all 3 parts and you're free. Yes? Which do you think it is? I didn't see how many fingers you had up. How many did you have up? 3. Okay, she's right. That's correct. Kansas is pretty much in the middle. It allows suffrage to be restored whenever you have completed the final of all 3. And it's automatic in Kansas. Kansas makes it really pretty easy for you. As a sideline, guess which the most difficult state it is to ever get your civil rights back? Nope. 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 New Jersey? Nope. No. I'll come back to that in just a second. It's Mississippi. Guess what you got to do in Mississippi to get back your right to vote? And as you'll see why it seldom happens. It allows suffrage to be restored in only 2 ways. One is getting a discretionary pardon from the governor, up to him or her, or you can introduce an individual suffrage bill that has to be, number 1, sponsored by a state legislator, and number 2, passed by both houses. Probably not too many people can get through that drill. But what about assessed court costs? Oh, Missouri. Missouri's also in Group 3, but Missouri's a little more complicated. They make it fairly easy if you are convicted of a misdemeanor, and they do include misdemeanors. But then when it comes to regular, their laundry list of little more serious crimes, they require some more work to be done. It isn't just automatic like it is in Kansas. But basically, yes, Kansas and Missouri aren't that different. They just have different procedures as to how you go about it. And it's true today, I think, what I'm telling you, but these rules change all over the country every 2 or 3 years. And, you know, another legislature comes in and they throw one rule out and put another rule in. So you've got to keep watching if you're interested in this to see where, number one, your state is, and number two, where other states are. But what about assessed court costs and fines and restitution? When you get convicted and you get sentenced, very often those things are included. And you might not have the money to pay them, and you're not going to be very likely to have any money when you get out and try to get started again. There's battles going on today as to whether finishing probation, so in the states where you have to do all three, whether finishing probation includes paying off remaining costs, fines, and restitution. But Kansas isn't presently involved in those battles. In Kansas, as of now, assessed costs, fines, and restitution are sent by the criminal court to a civil collections department, and civil is the key word there. So they become enforceable civil obligations. You still owe them, you still got to pay them if you can, but they do not usually affect in any way your restored civil rights. If you finish your probation, then your probation officer can sign off, and if you finish supervised release, then the commission can sign off. Now, the Prisoner Review Board is the last in line, but the judge has a responsibility, the parole officials have a responsibility, and so does the Prisoner Review Board, to see to it that the paperwork gets done without you having to ask. But mistakes get made, and you know, the previous inmate had better keep his head about him and make sure when he goes to apply for jobs, when things like other things happen, like wanting to vote. Now, when you do want to vote and you go to register or re-register, then you do not have to bring that paperwork with you. Why not? Why should they trust you? Well, because there's an affidavit right above your signature line that you attest that you are someone who lost their right to vote, but as it has now been restored. Why should you be sure that that's correct and that you know you got your ducks in a row when you go to register? Because signing a false affidavit is its own criminal defense, and you're right back where you started. It's just best to take the time to clear up the paperwork. It's their responsibility to do it, and it's your responsibility to just check, make sure it's all in order. The next thing we're going to do here is a Kansas hypothetical. She's got copies. I'm going to read it because of the YouTube, and for those of you who forgot your reading glasses, because you're going to need to know the facts of this hypothetical. So just, if anybody who wants one, or you can just ignore it, or you can use it as a cheat sheet for the test. Now, back in the summer of '22, Jack and Diane were Johnson County 20-somethings when they exhibited bad behavior on an excursion through the heartland. Who wrote the song? You're all right. It was interesting to me when I've given this speech at the junior college that these kids all knew rock and roll is here to stay. Now, Jack and Diane, in their little frolic and detour, ended up as co-defendants in the United States District Court for the District of Nebraska. They each were charged with 3 serious misdemeanors, as well as 1 serious felony, which was a drug-related felony with a 3-year mandatory minimum prison term. Now, Diane hoped that she could promote her youthful innocence in Jack's bad behavior, or bad influence, and she demanded a jury trial. She went to trial, and she was convicted as charged. The judge sentenced her to 1 year on each of the misdemeanor charges and to the 3-year minimum term on the felony charge to be served concurrently for a total of 36 months in prison plus 2 years of probation on the felony. Now, you know how that works, don't you? If you're sentenced consecutively, you go sentence 1, sentence 2, sentence 3. If you're sentenced what they call concurrently, they're all served at the same time. Now, she was also required to register in Nebraska as a drug offender. That felony was an offense that would have required her to register as a drug offender if she had been convicted in Kansas. For some unstated reason, the U.S. attorney dropped Jack's felony count. And Jack agreed to plead guilty to those same 3 misdemeanors. That didn't sit well with the judge. He sentenced Jack to 3 1-year misdemeanor terms to be served consecutively so that the 2 of them got the same punishment for the same offenses. Their incarcerations both ended in January 2026. Jack and Diane both immediately came back to Johnson County because that's how life goes on. They were both registered Johnson County voters when they went astray in Nebraska, and both of them want to vote in the 2026 elections. And Diane is going to run for city council at the next local election. All right, let's see if you listened or not. Okay, number 1, or you read. Check your cheat sheet. True or false? Jack was always eligible to vote, even while he was in lockup after his misdemeanor convictions. True or false? First one, true. He gets the candy. If you don't want candy, give it to somebody. Can you say why? Yes, I sure can. No matter how many misdemeanor convictions are involved or how much prison time they rack up, misdemeanors do not count in Kansas for the purpose of curtailing your Kansas voting rights. That's in the Constitution and also in the statutes at KSA 21713. Okay, question 2. Diane is not eligible to vote in 2026 because she is a registered drug offender. True or false? Who said that first? Was okay, I'm going to disqualify you pretty quick here, probably. The Kansas Supreme Court, it is false. The Kansas Supreme Court has held, and this was in 2016, that an offender registration is a separate matter, and it is not technically punishment for your underlying crime. So, having that drug offender against you does not affect your right to vote after the discharge of your underlying criminal case, which is not to say you aren't in any trouble, but it's just that you do have the right to vote again. 3, true or false? Diane is free to re-register to vote because Kansas's felon disenfranchisement disenfranchisement law applies only to Kansas convictions, not to a conviction in a federal court elsewhere. True or false? Who was it? False? Who said false? Who first? Okay, it is false. Any state or federal conviction counts in Kansas. Diane was removed from the Johnson County Register of Voters when Nebraska notified the Johnson County Election Office about her Nebraska felony conviction. She can re-register to vote in Kansas, but not till her 2-year probation. Or, well, yeah, they call it, this one's called probation, when her 2-year probation ends, which would be when? 2008. Okay, so Diane is not able to vote yet, but she's free to hold public office while she's on probation. True or false? Who said false? Right down here, somebody. In Kansas, you are not eligible to serve as a public official until everything is done: incarceration, parole, and probation. That's by statute 216613. Last one. Jack was registered before he was charged, and he still lives at his old Johnson County address, so he can vote without re-registering. True or false? Okay, you're all right and you're all wrong. Maybe the answer is a good lawyer answer. It depends. That's my standard answer. Generally, being in prison does not change your legal residence to the prison's location. Jack never lost his right to vote as a registered voter in Johnson County. He only had misdemeanor convictions, unless he failed to vote while he was in prison. And therefore, he got removed from the Johnson County registry list for failure to vote. Now, if he had voted from prison, it's perfectly okay. He'd still be registered and he would not have to re-register. I'm glad you asked that, because the answer is, in almost every state and in all federal prisons, you can vote by mail. If your state allows you to, you can vote by mail from within the prison. And in fact, in most prisons, they consider that legal mail, and you don't have to pay the postage. Now, for my Group 4 audience, in case you weren't paying attention, in 2023, more than 4.5 million Americans were disenfranchised because of their felony convictions. As for Kansas, in 2020, the number of Kansans with a felony record who are eligible to register was 21,256. That's 1% of the population. Then, for 2023, the number went up to about 30,000 people. I don't have 2025 numbers, or the 2023 is the latest one I have, but you can bet it's higher, not lower, because we tend to lock more people up than we have die or leave the state. Some national research has been done on the subject of restored voting rights. Studies have found that discharged offenders who vote are 2/3 less likely to get rearrested than those who do not vote. Other studies have shown that discharged offenders who both vote and have other civil work, such as church or the school or the League of Women Voters, are both less antisocial and also have a strong intention to remain crime-free. Now, you might think some of these studies are naive or blind or fake news, but I hope it makes common sense to you that restoring an important civil right can be significant to your self-worth if you're somebody struggling to get a fresh start. And employer opinions and public opinion often come down on the side of people who successfully completed the punishment they earned and are now intent on working to be good citizens. We can agree, I think, that most have no understanding of how the criminal justice system interacts with the voting rights of everybody. For example, many local people wrongly think today that they lost the right to vote when they were arrested and charged and locked up in the Johnson County Jail. People believe that. Other people assume that their rights are gone forever, and don't think about it again once they get convicted. Not in Kansas. So how many of you came here thinking, okay, well, I'll listen, but I don't know what it has to do with me and my life? It's a natural thought. Are you so sure? Just take a look and consider it. Among your relatives, anybody? Among your close friends? Anybody? Among your acquaintances that you speak to all the time? Anybody? How about their children? How about their spouses? How about their aunts and uncles? And all their friends? Are you not surrounded by this? Or do they just not want to talk about it? They're not going to volunteer that information. The League is devoted to encouraging everybody who can vote to register and vote. Educating the public about this and about so many other topics is the way we reach those beyond our usual suspects of influence. Information so often reaches those that we didn't know were listening. Now, to end this on a more practical note, there are, in my opinion, very few Kansas politicians who are so darn sure of election that they can afford to ignore the possible votes of 30,000 Kansans. Why don't we just make sure our favorite candidates know what we know? Now, do I have questions?
All right, one moment. We're going to do this so everybody can hear.
Okay, I'm a little confused about why it is acceptable for prisoners to vote from prison, but can get out of prison, and some then can't vote in some states.
Because it's purely up to the state legislature. It's like so many things. Our federal constitution does not, simply doesn't want to deal with this issue and left it 100% up to the states, although if you read the news or listen to anything, you know that that's at this point being contested nationally and in the states. Who gets to vote and where are the lines drawn and that sort of thing is supposed to be 100% a state effort unless there's some kind of federal law that somehow implicates it. But the bottom line is that your state legislatures your state legislature that makes that decision. And they can make a different one next year and turn it right back the year after and do something totally strange the next year. Yeah, if it's a federal election, it doesn't make any difference when you vote. When you vote in a federal election, you vote in the state you live in, right? And at that point, of course, the Electoral College kicks in. But you vote. If you're a Kansas resident, you go and you vote for the President of the United States, and you also go and vote for your governor and your dog catcher and your mayor. It makes no difference. You are a citizen of the state in which you live, and that's where you vote. And whatever's on the ballot, whether it's federal or state or local, you're the one who gets to vote. Any other questions? There's one. Hit the green. Is it on? Okay, well, yell. Yell loud. To expand it? Yes, actually, and I'm trying to remember which state it was, a couple of years ago, we're like one of the 15, you can't vote, they weren't going to let you do it at all, and they expanded it specifically to include felons who had done all three parts of their sentence. And that it's one of the Midwestern states. It's either Georgia or Virginia that currently has a procedure, well, it's been going on for a couple of years, trying to figure out how to get the the fines and all that off their law books, because they make them pay up before they are able to get their voting back. And I forget which state it is, but it's one of those, and that's an argument that's been going on in their legislature for like 2 or 3 years. So yes, it's not always cutting back. Depends on who gets in place in the legislature. Another question?
He didn't see me. I didn't see it. I was turning this way. Okay, scenario. I commit a crime in Kansas. I live in Kansas. I do my whole thing, my whole sentence. I get my rights back in Kansas. And then I move to Mississippi, I think it was you said, where you never get your rights back without. Do I lose it when I move to Mississippi?
I'm not 100% on this, but I know it's come up before, and I believe the answer has always been, once you're free and clear in Kansas, you're free and clear everywhere till you do something again. You might have been asked, there might be a law in, say, Mississippi that would require you, when applying for a job or a trucker's license, or, to say, have you ever been convicted of a crime? But at that point, you would be able to say, but my rights were restored. And I believe that's still the same across the country, because there would be some federal laws applied if that were not true. So, like I say, I'm not 100% up to date, but that's the way it's always been that I know about.
Okay, this is just sort of a personal, it's more of a historical question, I guess, because we both love traveling to Vermont and Maine. It's sort of like a second home for, how long have those laws been on the books that have been
Forever.
They have?
As far as I know.
Okay.
I don't think nothing recent, no, nothing recent at all. It's been that way.
So they're liberal, little L, they're more open, accommodating to civil rights and the right to vote, have been on the books for a long time in those two states.
Well, I don't know what reasons,
Yeah.
what reasons they have,
Yeah.
but those are the two states that determined that once you did, if you do, the rule,
Yeah.
if you can't do the time, then don't do the crime.
Yeah.
And they feel, a lot of people feel equally,
Yeah.
well, once you've done the crime and you've done the time, then you need to get back to normal. And that sounds like Vermont to me, doesn't it to you? Oh, here's one.
This is my question, that if you're saying that people that get out of prison don't know if they can vote or not, or register to vote, is there any education done for
Yes.
people who are being released?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
There is, and federally, there's a lot of it. I mean, those people will not say they don't know. They will say, they told us to go talk to our election office, or they told us to get a lawyer, but they'll tell you that you need to find out because there will be a way. You just need to get with the people that counsel them upon release will make sure. Now, in the state systems, I don't think you can I can't guarantee that. But I think at least at the state level, if you're in state prison and not farmed off someplace, then that they at least have it on paper. And the ACLU, by the way, the ACLU has all kinds of information about this. And I did, 2 years ago when I put this speech together, partnered with them to use their research. And so they're very helpful. And anybody who's got an issue like that needs to go right straight to the ACLU and ask them, because they do have a lot of material dealing with prisons. Now, let me give you one extraneous piece of information here, because we're talking about prison. Well, what about if you're locked up in the Johnson County Jail? Well, you can vote from the Johnson County Jail. And they give you information when you walk in the door. And you say, well, you're not going to be there very long, so what do I care? What if you go in on August the 1st, and you were desperate to vote on that amendment? You did not lose your right. But the problem is you got to mail the ballots today. That is being worked on. I'm working on a project to try to convince there to be another way other than the mail voting from the jail. But yeah, you can do it. You just put the stamp on and go through all the process, and they'll help you with it. Johnson County has had a program in place for 3 or 4 years, and so has Douglas County. But the rest of the state, the sheriffs aren't altogether, up to speed. Yes, there's a question back here? No? Okay. Yes?
Okay. Are there gender differences in the number of people who have completed their sentences that then go to vote? Are men or women more likely to?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
That's an interesting question, though, and it's one I should know the answer to, but I don't. Assuming that that there's been research done on it, I don't know whether there has. There should be. That'd be interesting. Yes?
If the crime is committed by a juvenile, does it make any difference in the process when they reach 18 and would otherwise be able to vote?
Yes and no. It depends upon whether they were tried as an adult or whether they remained in the juvenile system, because whatever they did in the juvenile system, if they were not treated as an adult, then of course ends with the juvenile system. But if they were tried and convicted as an adult, the same law would apply to them as to anyone else. It's a good question.
Others?
Well, you all had really good questions, and I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Well, I'm going to be informal and just say thank you all for being here. Thank you, Aline. That was excellent information. Let me get up to where I belong. That was excellent information, and I'm hoping that all of you will take that with you, educate others, share it, and make sure that people who need to know this, including, I mean, I'm an election worker, assistant election judge. I have a sinking suspicion that there are plenty of people that I volunteer with who probably don't know this information, and I think it's really beneficial for us to be aware. So please remember all the different announcements and opportunities that I shared at the outset. And if you're looking for additional education on your Saturday, I have it on good authority that the NAACP has their first Saturday of the month meeting happening here at noon at Shawnee Church of the Nazarene in Shawnee, Kansas, and they will be having Dr. Micah Kubik from the ACLU speaking. So it gives us an opportunity to cross and partner up with others, and we may be having Dr. Kubik speak to us upcoming as well. Oh, the address is 5539 Quivira in Shawnee. Yes, it's, sorry about that. Here, there, that's much better. It is 5539 Quivira in Shawnee, and that is Shawnee Church of the Nazarene, and it is at noon. So you have plenty of time to be able to get there. Again, thank you all for spending part of your Saturday with us. We appreciate you, and we hope to see you at some events upcoming. Lots going on. Thank you.